right, good morning. My name is Chris DeGuido, back with another episode of the DeGuido Report, episode 5. And today we're going to talk about Senator Warren. Elizabeth Warren. Everyone knows about the controversy with President Trump and Warren. Trump called her Pocahontas when honoring the Navajo code talkers. And it was a big thing. Everyone was absolutely disgusted. Warren said it was a racial slur, and in the event of honoring these brave Navajo code talkers that played a big part in the war, that Trump couldn't go without making it selfish and about him, and using a racial slur to kind of further prove the narrative spin of him being racist, and therefore his followers following him are racist. But let's not forget a few things. Okay, I got Breitbart news pulled up, so credit goes to Breitbart for this article, because actually I did not know this until the other day, and then they kind of did an update post. So Elizabeth Warren was on Bill Maher. And Bill Maher is super left-leaning, super liberal, super Democrat. And she was on the Bill Maher show, Real Time with Bill Maher. And it even states that it was earlier this year. And Bill Maher called her Pocahontas. And the quote is Bill Maher honed in and said that, quote, "They don't like you, Pocahontas." Now, how did Warren respond exactly? Warren was laughing. Apparently, she was joking. She didn't cry racism. She didn't taint Bill Maher's name with being a racist. And I think that's because at this point, people don't care about this kind of stuff, because at this point, I believe people on both sides of the aisle kind of realize that the extreme left are creating this hysteria, and that there's actually nothing to worry about to the magnitude at which they say to. If Warren was really offended by President Trump, she should have been really offended when Bill Maher did this. I mean, it was within the same year. So Bill Maher said at the beginning of the year, no worries, no backlash, no racism. Trump says it now towards the end of the year, and all hell breaks loose. This is why no one takes the left seriously, because they can't hold up to their story. They're a bunch of hypocrites. Elizabeth Warren is a senator in Massachusetts, and she keeps claiming that she's got Native American blood in her, which is why she was so offended. She hasn't been able to prove it, so as far as we know, she's a liar. She was a professor in Harvard, but she used her Native American heritage to land the job. And Harvard, of course, accepted it because it was, one, a female, and two, a Native American minority. So Harvard got to check off the diversity box and the minority box all at once. Probably checked off a feminism box too. Warren has the reason why I say she's saying that she's Native American, but she's not, it's like a false claim, is because she hasn't been able to prove it. The only thing that she was saying that she could prove was that she had high cheekbones, which is, if anything, that's racist. Saying that all Native Americans have high cheekbones, and then therefore you identify. Also, another thing to talk about is these videos. So I made a podcast yesterday talking about these videos Trump is retweeting, and I got the person's name wrong. I believe I called her Jaden. It's Jada, so that was my mistake. I probably read it too fast, and I saw the J And I was like, oh, Jaden. No, it's Jada Franson. And I got a little more information on the subject because when I made the podcast, it was pretty much fresh, a fresh story. And so Jada Franson apparently has been, she's a convict. She was charged, I guess, for a hate crime, which is interesting because in you know, in Britain, in the UK, they don't have free speech over there, so anything could be a hate crime over there. I'm not justifying her actions, but I'm just saying, food for thought. Because she was speaking out against this Muslim woman, and she had her children with her, and apparently Franson was saying some obscene things, and she was charged accordingly. Like I said, no free speech zone. Although I'm not condoning it, at the same time, I think you should use wisdom in what you're saying in the midst of people. I'm not saying you should go out and say whatever you want. I think there should be a level of genuineness of like just be a good person. There's a way to express dislike or disagreements in a civilized, rational way. And I guess Jada didn't do that, but and then she's also the leader of Britain First, which is a extreme right wing publication, and she's the one that was posting these videos, and I believe one of the videos was kind of misleading, and I can't remember which one it was. It might have been the Muslim Migrant, was titled Muslim Migrant Beats Up Dutch Boy. I think that if I remember correctly, they said there's no absolute 100% concrete proof that he was a Muslim migrant. Regardless, the video's disgusting. Regardless of your religious belief or what have you, you shouldn't beat on other people like that, especially if the other guy's in crutches. So Trump is retweeting these videos and getting flack for it. Sean King was crying all over the internet. Everyone was melting down. They weren't really focusing so much. These little political activists like Sean King, they weren't focusing on people like Matt Lauer and Al Franken or Roy Moore who just keep burying themselves in these sexual assault cases. No, he takes to Twitter and cries about these videos. And so just to kind of update in that situation, my thoughts on that situation now that I've had a full day to kind of sink in, I think the videos are disgusting, whether they're Muslims or not. But it's also been proved that one of the videos was kind of misleading, and I accept that. Do I think Trump should have retweeted it? I don't really care if Trump retweets it. Just because you retweet something doesn't mean you necessarily believe or act in such a way as the person that you retweet. As far as I know, Trump doesn't follow Jada Franson, so he's not endorsing her. He saw the videos and more than likely was disgusted, like you should be, and retweeted them, because Trump is all about mitigating the rise of extreme Islamic terrorism, which the UK has an extreme problem with, which is why he told Theresa May in a tweet later that day, and I'm just going to sum it up, I'm not going to do direct quotes, but Theresa May was just like, how could you do this? How could you retweet these videos? And Trump fired back saying, hey, look, you're the ones with the Islamic terrorism problems. Don't focus on me. Get your country right. And I think that was a great fire back. Do I think Trump should have retweeted the videos? I think he should have did a little bit more homework on the situation about who he was retweeting. That's kind of like what's that guy's name? Richard Spencer, the neo-Nazi. That's like, it's kind of like Milo, endorsing Richard Spencer in a way. I don't know. I did jump on the news pretty fast, as far as wanting to talk about it, and so I didn't even have all my facts straight, and I admit that. I admit all the time that I could possibly be wrong on this podcast. But anyway, I don't want to beat a dead horse. Well, in other news, Matt Lauer of NBC got fired yesterday for sexual misconduct. This guy was a creep. he made about 25 million a year. I don't even know if reporters made that much money. But he got fired for complaints that were filed by colleagues of his over sexual assault. Embassy canned him yesterday. He had a button on his desk that he could press that would lock the door. And that's not the weird part. I mean, that's pretty typical in corporations like that. It helps protect you against people, lunatics and wackos. It's a security precaution. But he was abusing that. And so he would play these little office games. Like he would quiz these women on their sexual past. And like he would play F, marry, or kill, in which you would have, a panel of people, and you gotta, have sex with one, you gotta kill one, and then you gotta marry one. It's very childish. It's stuff you would play like in middle school. So he got busted really hard. And I believe Al Franken, he's a Democrat senator, got another complaint filed. I think another woman stepped up. And then I don't know what's really going on with the Roy Moore case. He's a Republican senator who had some allegations. So a lot of sexual misconduct happening on both sides of the aisle. Very disgusting. Very, very disgusting. It's crazy. The amount of like sexual misconduct that's going about since the Harvey Weinstein bust. Yeah, it's crazy. Another big thing is Senator McCain, John McCain, is voting for the new tax bill, the Republican tax bill. And the tax bill is an interesting topic. I need to make a podcast just on the tax bill. It's too much to talk about in this podcast because I kind of want to wrap it up. But maybe the next one, for episode 6, I'll talk about the tax bill. And but that's currently the biggest thing you should probably look out for. But McCain is signing yes. Bernie Sanders is all upset because essentially it doesn't tax the rich high enough. And I don't know. We'll get into all that. That's too much to unravel in the last bit of a podcast because it's going to add another 20 minutes. So just know that John McCain voted yes, and then I'll cover the tax bill in another podcast. But I mean, I think that's pretty much it as far as today. A lot of things happening, and a lot of things like I think the UK had another terrorist attack, or terrorist attack is at an all-time high. So I guess the biggest takeaway is don't retweet something right away unless you know what the source is. Donald Trump, don't do that. And see, this is another reason why I like this podcast, because I can criticize Donald Trump. I think he shouldn't have responded right away the way he did. He's, not just some random Twitter person. He's the president of the United States, and he has an obligation to make sure that what he is doing is right, because it is being monitored 24/7. 24/7. But that's all I got for today. We'll wrap up this little podcast show. And then, like I said, I'll do some homework on the new tax bill. I know a little bit about it right now. I just didn't want to dive into it last minute. And then we'll make an entire podcast over the tax bill so we can go through it together. But this is it for this podcast. And I will see y'all later. Remember to hit like, subscribe, and comment. And hit the little bell. By the subscribe button, there's a little bell, and that will give you notifications. And I'll see you guys in the next one.